And what did we do once we discovered a rift in the fourth dimension? We launched monkeys into it.
Only a human subject could survive that jaunt. The soul of a monkey can't survive the dimensional threshold.
I am living on channel Z. And welcome to another episode of What the Hell Happened to Them. Dwayne The Rock Johnson keeps on marching on, and joining me this week is my fantastic co-host, Joe Vekeman.
Hello.
And with me on the audio boards as well is Lev Van Rensselaer, keeping our sound smooth and fresh. And of course, our sponsor this week is Noodle Doors. All the security of a door with the warm comfort of noodles. Noodle Doors. That's noodle with a U. All right, Joe, what is our movie this week?
This week we watched Southland Tales.
Southland Tales. All right, everybody listen very carefully to my next few words. If you have yet to see this movie, turn off the podcast right now. Do not come back until you have seen it. You must go into this movie knowing nothing. Do not read anything about it. Try to view as few pictures as possible. Do not look at the cast list. Just find the movie, watch it, then come back to us. I will pause now to let you do that.
All right, no dead air. Come on.
All right, Joe. Nothing about this movie works. If you look at any piece of it, it is all a mess. I love this movie.
What?
I love this movie.
My heart is singing right now.
It is truly a work of art that is bigger than the sum of its parts. It is a complete and colossal mess, and I was along for the ride every minute of it. That's true. There was about 5 minutes at the beginning. I'm like, okay, narrator, shut the F up. And then I don't know when, but
Justin
Timberlake is the narrator for some reason. And I don't know when it was, but it was extremely early on where everybody's talking to each other, and I don't even know if they're having the same conversation. I don't know why anyone is saying anything or doing anything. But for once in all of the movies where that has been my reaction, I didn't care. I just was involved in the whole ordeal the whole time.
I'm getting emotional.
When you told me this week that this was your favorite rock movie, I was not expecting very much. But boy, are you right. I don't know if The Rock will ever be able to top this. Just like with Adam Sandler when we got to Punch Drunk Love very early on, it can only be downhill from here.
This is just truly music to my ears right now. I had a long conversation with our friend Rona yesterday about this, and her and I saw this at the Brattle Theater. We had like one of the best movie experiences I've ever had. We saw this at the Brattle Theater with a pretty large group of people, like almost like packed theater, on a 35 millimeter print with people who, some people had no idea what they were going into, and people who were like big fans of this movie. So we had the perfect crowd, and everybody was along for the ride for it. And it was beautiful. It was a symphony. Everybody was just like, and Rona kept turning to me because she had never seen it. She had no idea what this was. And she was just like, this is probably the greatest movie I've ever seen. And like she was being a little facetious, but like she was just along for that ride. And this movie is such a mood. And if you are in like, and if you're vibing with it, you will be like, you're just be so happy. It just, because you're just like, what is happening? No one is on the same wavelength. I dug so deep into this one. I have a lot of stuff for us to go into. And so do you want to get the synopsis? Or if there is one, right?
Yeah, do your best at providing whatever you can for the poor audience that has just returned to us from the cinematic moment they have escaped from.
All right. Well, this is what Box Office... I will read Box Office Mojo's summary of this movie for like the synopsis. Okay. During a 3-day heat wave just before a huge 4th of July celebration.
Wait.
What's that?
A heat wave is happening in this movie?
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't really tell if a heat wave is happening. It doesn't look that hot.
No one mentions it, and they all just look like they live in Southern California. There is
nothing. They're shooting in September.
Okay, go on. That has blown my mind. Go on.
An action star stricken with amnesia meets up with a porn star who is developing her own reality TV project and a policeman who holds the key to a vast conspiracy. Does he? Does he hold the key?
Is there a key?
I thought he was the key.
Yeah, like, for a conspiracy...
he holds it in his hand.
For a conspiracy, I don't fully understand the point of...
I'm on the page right now. I just need to get into so this movie, I believe, I just want to double check right now. This movie cost $17 million to make, which is amazing it cost that little to make.
I was so worried most of the time through, like, this movie probably had to cost $60 million, maybe 80. There's no way they made that money. 17 million? This
17 million?
Could have been profitable.
Well, this movie, let me theater. It came out it got a very, very limited release. The way this movie was released, it was just thrown in the garbage.
Oh, that's so sad.
Oh my God, we got to get into all this. But so it was released very limitedly because the studio was just like, I can't believe this mess. It's such poor business. I mean, did so poorly at Cannes. It was booed off the stage. It had like the least points, I guess, for like the competition.
Oh yeah, do not show this movie at Cannes.
Yeah.
Do not. That is not where this belongs.
Well, I think he brought it there because Donnie Darko became such a cult hit, and everyone was just like waiting to see what this guy would do next. And
I think I don't know what people were expecting after leaving Donnie Darko. Granted, Donnie Darko a lot more succinct.
Yeah.
But that one that required a director's cut that wasn't what was shown in theaters for most people, and two, still, I don't know. I was not unsurprised that this came from the same director. I go, oh yeah, that tracks. This seems like exactly his thing.
He has the same thing with the eye and where the bunny had the eye, and then Sean William Scott at the end of the movie has the same bullet hole through the eye. But just even
this sort of, I don't know, overwhelming kind of narrative, a very populated world of all these various characters that can be hard to keep track of, sort of the arcane, I don't know, narrative structure and plot elements. It's really all there. So I don't know if you came to this like, oh yeah, let's see the new Donnie Darko guy's film. You got what you wanted. It's there.
I did. All right, I'm just jumping back into the box office. So this movie came out in 63 theaters, and it averaged around $587 that first weekend it came out.
Did you say $587? This movie sold like 50 tickets in its opening weekend.
So domestically, this movie made $275,000, and internationally, it made $99,000 for a grand total of $374,000. This movie was enormously one of the biggest bombs. And I know it has a small budget, but compared to how much it made, I mean...
Yeah, generally with that small budget, you usually are safe. That is terribly unfortunate. So that sounds like then, after this movie came out, Richard Kelly has never worked again. Is that true?
That's not true, because he was a little upset because he didn't get to do too much to the DVD. He didn't get to put too many special features on the DVD, and because he was in production on his next movie already, which I believe if this movie came out before he was in production on the next movie, he would have never made another movie again.
Yeah,
because the next movie he made was The Box with Cameron Diaz and James Marsden. And
I don't know that movie. Oh, I'd probably check it out though. But then that was it for poor. Or did that movie like dig him out of the hole? Did that movie end up being successful? This Box
I think
movie?
that movie did a little better, but not much.
Unfortunate.
I remember everyone was just like, because it was sort of based on a Twilight Zone episode, and I just think everyone was just like, we've had it with this guy. Enough is enough. We've seen enough of this guy, and yeah, I mean.
Well, Donnie Darko didn't do great at the box office either. Has this movie found like a life in a cult structure? I mean, the Brattle was showing it, so possibly. I don't hear anyone talking about this movie at all. The only people that have seen it are you and Rona, and that's like the people I talk to. Like, this is my new goal now: is to turn this movie into a cult film. I will start the cult of Southland Tales, and I will all these people I'm working with. I will spread it, and I will let them know what to expect, and to just dive on in and hold your breath and just get through it.
You really have
to. This movie is straight, figurative, literal bananas. It is so insane.
Literal bananas. I love it.
Who is the casting director for this film, and how do I hire that person? Because it is genius. Here, let's go through some of the faces that you may recognize from this film.
You mean like half of the cast of the 90s and early 2000s SNL?
Yeah,
you got a lot
Mad
of good
TV.
ones.
What the F is Will Sasso's goofy face doing in this as the turncoat of the film and hero of this Marxist revolution? Why is Sean Wallace in the weirdest hair and makeup that a person could have met? Yeah, sorry, Wallace Shawn.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
John Larroquette as a Southern dandy. Sherry Oteri, probably the most brilliantly cast of anyone in this film, as like an opportunistic Marxist with her secret policeman boyfriend, John Lovitz, with beach blonde hair.
Yeah. Oh my
Adam
gosh.
Sandler regular has crossed over once again into our other season of the podcast for the weirdest role we will probably ever see him in. Mandy Moore for some reason. Amy Poehler.
And very, very young Amy Poehler. Yes. She was like brand new. We also have Sarah Michelle Gellar, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer herself. Janine Garofalo. I mean, oh my gosh. Lee Taylor Puckey. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
He's like an indie guy.
I've not heard of him. But
he did a bunch of indie movies.
Holmes Osborne, who played the vice presidential candidate, was also famously in Donnie Darko as Jake Gyllenhaal's dad. And the last episode of The Drew Carey Show. The very final episode.
You know who we haven't mentioned yet? Who's like co-starring with The Rock?
Sean William Scott returning to Dwayne The Rock Johnson films. Playing,
it's great that we're
on double duty. Playing two different
twin
roles,
brothers.
Which actually, not really twin brothers, the same person.
Yeah, Ronald and Roland Taver, right?
Yeah, I don't know. And Justin Timberlake that we already talked about. Who?
Kevin Smith and all that makeup, the old makeup.
Who was Kevin Smith in this movie?
He's the guy, like, towards the end who shows The Rock his, like, dead body that went through the...
Oh, he's the guy with the beard.
Yeah, the giant beard.
And that other guy next to him, I know I've seen. in things. I would never know his name, though. And then next to him was that lady who was also in Donnie Darko as like the sort of the mean mom, but then was in the Mindy Project for a number of years as like the racist old lady.
She was in Donnie Darko.
Yep, exactly. So Richard Kelly taking care of his regulars.
Yeah, I'm on the IMDb list right now.
Yeah.
Uncredited, but still in this movie, Eli Roth is the man who was shot on the toilet.
Oh, that's right in the beginning. Yes.
Oh my.
These are just people playing characters with, notable parts. There are 100 more characters that show up for a couple minutes here and there. Another one? Yeah.
Zelda Rubinstein from Poltergeist.
Did you say Poultrygeist or Poltergeist?
I misspoke.
I just want to know because they're both films, and I want to make sure it's the right one.
It's the one that was directed by Tobe Hooper / Steven Spielberg.
Okay, good. Just confirming.
Just this cast. I'm just happy right now. I'm living in a dream world right now.
Were these Joe, in your digging, were these people that were like, hey, we want to be in this guy's next movie, we really love Donnie Darko, or was it just sort of the weirdest casting net ever thrown on Hollywood? Most of these people are actually like New York people. Was this a New York based production?
No, this was all shot in Venice.
Okay.
But Richard Kelly, when he was writing the script, he had almost every one of these actors in mind. And so he reached out to these actors individually with his casting agent.
That is crazy that some of these people you would have. And I would it's the most, the Sherry O'Terry thing is so inspired because I would never, ever think crazy revolutionary opportunist Marxist getting people to cut off their fingers, but also wanting to blackmail to make millions of dollars. I don't know. I don't know how you can fathom oh yeah, that's where she goes. A lot of the other ones you kind of see, but that one and John Lovitz, which doesn't work as well, but is just as crazy of a casting leap to take. I don't know. I just don't know how you have that in your mind as you write what must have been a 300-page script.
Oh my God. There's so much to get into. So he wrote this movie in mind of having it as this giant interactive experience where he wrote 3 prequel graphic novels.
Oh yes, those are featured prominently in the credits.
Okay.
The first part, here's what was weird was that at first that comes up in the credits is graphic novel artist, and I go, I don't remember seeing a graphic novel in this. And then I thought, well, maybe that's why it starts. The movie begins on chapter 4. Yes, because there are other chapters in a graphic novel universe. And then indeed by the end of the credits, you see each of those 3 novels and available now on this website. Have you read these graphic novels? I want to find them.
They're on Amazon. I think they're still available. I should have got them a long time ago.
I know, this feels like one of these things that now 5 people would have all of them and they'll be $100 for each one. And I'm not worth that. It might almost be better to not have that information. I almost like how little I understand of what is happening.
Yeah.
It's part of what makes it intoxicating. It's like the drug of blissful ignorance.
So I'm reading here on the trivia. Wallace Shawn told film critic Nathan Rabin he did not understand the film after initially reading the screenplay, but signed on as he was impressed by Richard Kelly and flattered that the part was written specifically for him. Ultimately, he said that he still found the film mostly incomprehensible after 3 viewings, but liked it very much.
Yes, and I imagine that must have been most actors' responses. Because I don't know how you would read that. I don't know how a script form of it makes it any easier to comprehend. Visuals certainly helped me a lot kind of tie things together. And yes, you just have to sort of dive in and be like, well, maybe it'll be wacky. And indeed it was. Because here's really what it is. It is David Lynch meets Michael Bay. And you would never think that would work, but it does. And as I was thinking that thought, I don't know, maybe 10, 20 minutes later, literal Rebecca Del Rio shows up, who had some years earlier just been in Mulholland Drive. It's like he knew what he was going for with the aesthetic. It's crazy.
He really did. Where is this? So just so we can talk about The Rock just a little bit, this is the first film where Dwayne Johnson dropped The Rock in his billing.
Yes, I noticed that. Why do you think he would have done that here?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I really don't. I like to speculate.
Did he think like this was going to be like a serious art house film and he wanted to be taken more seriously?
What did you think of his performance?
Here's my big question. What were his choices and what did Richard Kelly tell him to do? Because it is so bizarre, some of the things he chose to do when. Particularly this thing he does
with his fingers?
With his fingers.
Yes.
Which he is not doing very well. But almost I wonder if that's the point. I don't even know. I don't know, Joe.
Isn't he like an actor? Like, isn't he supposed to be an actor?
Well, his character is an actor, but I guess also he has this weird nervous tic. But also he came from the future where he forgot the future and then wrote a screenplay about it with Sarah Michelle Gellar, who for some reason needed a dialogue coach in this film. Was she doing some sort of an accent that I didn't notice and she needed coaching on that?
I can't see that as a thing. I mean, it's everybody has their methods.
And I want to talk about this Sarah Michelle Gellar character because I have seen characters with sort of, most characters in films have a certain level of intelligence to them that we just assume is there, and it's usually higher than average. Not by much, but usually it's in that realm. And when you play a character that is meant to be lower than that, it's usually done for a joke, and usually done for a joke at their expense. And while there are some jokes made on this character's intelligence, mostly it creates sort of this vulnerability in her. Like her arc is sort of as a character who's trying desperately to make something of herself, but is overwhelmed by a world she can't possibly fathom. And there's sort of this sincere earnestness to it that becomes endearing. And by the end of it, she kind of sees what the bigger picture is more than these things she was kind of prescribing to. And then is kind of, I guess, possibly, I couldn't tell you, helping guide The Rock to that, or guide all the events to that end. Or maybe it's just that she inadvertently does it through that, her lack of intelligence, which I thought for just about all of it until this awkward, I don't know, three-way dance thing at the end of the film where it seems like she knows very well what she's doing. So I don't know. Like she found like this kind of nirvana center to her, despite, the limits of her intelligence, because finding that nirvana and that peace and that understanding doesn't really require intelligence. It requires something more emotionally wise. I sort of like this kind of portrayal of her.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's on everyone is like 3 levels away from each other. And like everyone's doing something different. I feel like everyone was directed by someone else, but like somehow it just works.
I don't know. It reminds me
a little bit of serotonin in your brain. Just be like, oh.
It reminds me of The Simpsons, where Mr. Burns goes to the doctor, and the doctor's like, you have every disease known to man. And he's like, oh, no, that's not good. And he goes, you'd think so. But he has like a little door and he has like a bunch of germs and he tries to push them all through the door, but they're like in perfect balance. They're stuck and they can't get through. And he calls it Three Stooges syndrome. This movie has that. It has Three Stooges syndrome. Nothing about it works, but it all doesn't work in such perfect harmony that you get this very unique and weird and experience. And I think part of it is those Michael Bay elements to it that give you that spectacle feel. But part of it is sort of something that comes from this ignorance of all these wildly moving parts and this heavily populated, very dense world and mythology that's there that could be meaningless for all that I care. It just all seems to kind of hang in perfect equilibrium.
Yeah. Just some more facts. So Justin Timberlake's scenes were all shot in one day.
I can see that. Mm-hmm.
He was finished in one day, and then his lines were redubbed for the new cut after the Khan's cut. The Khan cut was 160 minutes, and then he was told to recut it, and so they could just. I mean, it's still long. It's just I want to see the other cut, but apparently his character was too sarcastic. So, and he said he misdirected him, so that's why he had to redub the lines. But I don't know. He could be sarcastic. What did you think of his performance, Justin Timberlake, in this?
It seemed fine. He certainly still seemed kind of
new?
like The Rock. Yeah, like The Rock had in some of his earlier films, somewhat uncomfortable, somewhat peacocking, trying a little too much, which is sort of crazy that that was what was happening in dubbing. So now you get a second try at everything. But his performance is fine enough for whatever else is going on in this film. What I still don't know by the end of this film is he alive? Is he dead? I don't know. We go into this weird musical number when he takes this weird drug he's been smuggling out that Wallace Shawn has been making secretly, experimenting on Iraqi soldiers. I thought that was going to be a bigger plot point, but I guess this giant Zeppelin is, because we never learn with Zeppelins. Why is the best the neo-Marxist revolution can do to try to rig an election to kidnap and smear the reputation of the son-in-law of the vice president of a Republican candidate? How do they think that would possibly swing an election in their favor? Who gives an F about what the vice president's non-related son does?
I know.
I don't what Republicans will be like, oh, well, now I'm voting for the Democrats because this guy, marginally related to the vice president, has had a 3-day affair with a porn star. I don't understand. What that was the best you could come up with?
Yeah, that is the best you could come up with.
And the vice president's sister runs a 1984, I don't know, whatever. I don't know. I don't even know what to call it.
Yeah, it's so, it's so impenetrable that you just, I don't know, but I'm fine with not knowing. And if you're not, then you're going to want to turn off the movie in 5 minutes, because you're just once he starts, after that first home video footage, and then it just goes into the computer where there's just spouting off just stuff, you're like, what? And my brain just kind of goes blank, and I'm like,
yeah, we're getting a lot here really quickly. What strategic value is there in bombing a giant state with a low population density in the middle of the country? No country thinks all right, if we want to cripple America, we're taking down Texas. So that's a lot of beginning. Justin Timberlake gives us more and more and more and more and more and more information over and over again.
He's going to stitch the movie together somehow.
He's telling us about all these characters you can't possibly know. For some reason, he has decided he wants to tell us. Everybody has a ridiculous name in this movie. I'm mostly okay with it, but it is important to point out.
Boxer Santoros. I will repeat that.
Boxer Santoros is probably the least ridiculous name of the whole movie.
I just like saying it.
Fortunately,
Krista
Now, Boxer Santoros. Fortunately, he had his main characters have the least ridiculous names. But Will Sasso's name is Fernando something. It's ridiculous, long, unique names. It certainly helps them stand out. That is true.
Baron von Westphalen. I have all the quotes in front of me. We need to go through these quotes. Let me tell you what might be the greatest quote ever said in that movie.
And I have definitely had Lev place it at the beginning of this episode.
Oh, you beautiful son of a bitch.
And I will try to deliver it the way it was delivered in the movie, because that was certainly a giant part of what makes the quote work.
Okay.
The soul of a monkey could not survive the temporal rift. What the... I cannot believe that was a thing that was uttered in a movie, and it wasn't a non sequitur to something. That is insane. Give me some more ridiculous quotes, Joe.
Okay. So this is Boxer talking to Roland. So I'll just say Boxer and Roland. So Boxer, do you ever feel like there's 1,000 people locked inside of you? Roland, sometimes.
Yeah,
Boxer.
I know. He does. He's not.
But if your memory that
all.
keeps them glued together keeps all these people from fighting one another, maybe in the end, that's all we have. The memory gospel. This is great.
Yeah, Richard Kelly also populates this movie with a great deal of both poetic and biblical quotes, none of which are appropriately used. It's insane how well he knows these. I guess they're not even obscure things, these T.S. Eliot and these Robert Frost kind of quotes, but I don't know why he thought to I guess the T.S. Eliot will make sort of sense if you're making an apocalypse movie. Who knows? I had a hard time knowing which character knows what I know, because sometimes I thought they didn't, and sometimes I thought they did. I don't know who knows that an apocalypse is coming. I assumed everybody wanted to find Boxer Santaros because he had this apocryphal screenplay, but then it sounds like they just wanted him so that they could win the election. But then some people did know about the screenplay, and one lady found it online and fell in love with him because of it. I don't understand what's happening. All right, give me more quotes, Joe.
Well, one of my favorites is the Lou Taylor Puckey character is talking to the Sean William Scott character when he's trying to like rob the ATM and just like get the money out. He's like, "Yo, dog! It says transaction denied, dog. Yo, what do I do? We're going to take the ATM machine with us to Mexico."
Well, that's right. Christopher Lambert is in this movie too.
Another one. Are you Deep Throat too? I'm not in that movie.
Yeah.
Anyone? I believe this is the Will Sasso character.
Yeah.
Who's named Fortunio Balducci.
Yeah, that's his name. What a flippin' weird name. Go on, Joe.
Anyone who knows anything of history knows that great social changes are impossible without feminine upheaval. Yeah, that's his first line, right?
That's his first line in the movie, and you go like, how did we get there? Why do you want Will Sasso to deliver that line? And then 5 minutes later, Sean William Scott's looking at himself in a mirror that's 10 seconds behind him. Yeah, what a great movie this is.
And it just goes on. The scene goes on for like 45 seconds.
I have no idea what anyone is saying. Sean William Scott and Sherry O'Terry are not having the same conversation. I love it.
I believe the Sherry O'Terry character's name is Zora Carmichaels.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
And so she says this great line, "Let's dry our tears and face our fears."
Yeah, of the weird things people say, it's not there. I bet it was said at a very ridiculous moment, but by itself,
Did I just see two cars porking with each other?
Yes. Yeah.
What do you think of that scene?
What a weird 30-second long commercial I had to see. And I was like, I guess we're doing bad CGI now. But then it wasn't. It was a commercial. And then the commercial got weirder and sexier. And
the tailpipe of the car turns into a dick.
Yes. And then the muffler turned into a vagina. In weird 2005 CGI graphics. It was weird that we spent about 25 minutes of the movie to get to a point where we are at a tired police procedural where The Rock, preparing for a role, wants to follow Sean William Scott, who is a police officer, to learn how to act like a real cop. And that, by the way, is part of the bad guy's plan. They're all bad guys, it seems. It's part of the neo-Marxist plans to then rig the election. So I was just like, "What? We did all that 25 to do this stupid plot structure, but then we only did that for 10 minutes anyway before John Lovitz turns out to be part of a double crossing of that plan. But then Will Sasso is also a double crossing of the plan, and Sherry O'Terry's running over people. I don't know why anyone did anything in this movie, quite frankly."
Another quote. This is Krista now. Join us for an in-depth discussion of the penetrating issues facing society today. Issues like abortion, terrorism, crime, poverty, social reform, quantum teleportation, teen horniness, and war.
Yes, that scene particularly reminded me. There's a famous clip of Tara Reid from when she was on the E network. When that is the E network still on?
I believe so.
Okay.
Also, the director did reach out to Tara Reid for one of the roles that would be one of Sarah Michelle Gellar's friends.
Okay, yeah. I mean, she'd be perfect there because in that clip, she was talking to some guy that clearly thought she was attractive. And was willing to listen to whatever stupid crap she was saying in this moment. And he's just sort of nodding and trying to keep a smile, but you could tell he's just what an idiot. And she was drunk. So that's not even a knock on her intelligence. She was just on one of these long drunken rants. And she was we were knee deep in the Iraq-Afghani war in 2003, 2002. And she's just I don't understand why these people keep blowing everybody up. If you want to blow people up, find the other countries that want to blow people up and just blow each other up. Leave everybody else alone. What the F, Tara Reid? Is that how you think the world is working? Again, she's drunk, so probably she doesn't. And this is just a crazy thought. But it was so funny, this guy that clearly wanted to sleep with her being yep, say whatever you want. In that same moment, in that same scene, she's Sarah Michelle Gellar's character is just let's all have sex. Just because some nerd pilgrims came over here and screwed it all up, we think we can't have sex anymore. And I'm yeah, fucking nerd pilgrims, nerdy ass pilgrims.
I'm gonna send you something right now, and we're going to do a dialogue.
Okay.
Because it's too long for me to do by myself, and I feel like it'll work better with us. So you pick one. You can either be Veronica or Dion. Okay.
All right. Which one was Veronica?
I think
which one? Who is Veronica and who is Dion? I don't even know these. I think
these are the two ladies who are smoking pot all the time.
I do remember this conversation though.
Yes. So do you want to be Dion or Veronica?
I guess I'll be Veronica. You can take the lead here.
All right. The dude hasn't taken a shit in a week.
When has it ever been in the Bible that you have to have a bowel movement? It's not written anywhere.
It's not written in the Bible, but something is written. Like in Mother Nature, all of the animals shit, cows shit, llamas shit.
Do they like it? Do they want it? If they had a voice, would they rather not?
I think they feel better after they take a shit. I think they do like it. My answer is yes.
My answer is no. None of what we just said makes any sense. It doesn't even make sense when you've seen everything before and after it. I have no idea what that conversation means, what it's supposed to stand for, what they're supposed to be expressing with those words, and I'm okay with it. It's almost Antonioni-esque, where it's not even what all these characters are saying. It's not the particulars of their dialogue that matter, but the utterance of it. The act of speaking itself is what is meant to draw us in. For Antonioni, it's meant to draw us into the ennui and disconnection. I don't know. Disconnection might be sort of what's at play here. It's a similar way of how Lynch uses his conversations. It's almost like this distrust of words and information as we're being overloaded and saturated by all these people's stories and all these interconnecting webs. And a flying ice cream truck. It flies, Joe, for reasons I don't know why. Because the whole movie they're hinting at do you know what would happen if two exact souls met? And I said no, but I certainly would not have guessed floating ice cream truck. It was not where I would have gone. But it's only floating to people not in the ice cream truck. In the ice cream truck, it looks like they're in weird space age portal.
Yeah.
And there's some backstory that character and his other self have with Justin Timberlake that I don't fully understand, which makes me think that is Justin Timberlake dead? But he did give that guy drugs. But the drug is named Angel something, and then he's in this weird dance sequence, and we kind of end with his weird dance sequence.
Yeah,
so
I have no idea. We see him.
Yeah, so no, but then we cut back to it during this ending montage. We're there at the very tip end.
Oh yeah,
and then we go on to this weird scene where one Sean William Scott wants to kill himself and the other one doesn't. And
they keep changing the gun on himself and then on the
and then both Sean William Scott, well, I guess technically Justin Timberlake speaking for Sean William Scott, and Dwayne Johnson talk about how pimps don't kill themselves. I don't know what they mean by saying they're pimps, suicide. And I don't know why a pimp wouldn't commit suicide. But then The Rock sort of does, and a weird Jesus symbol kind of shows up in blood on his back. Like it felt like he was supposed to be the savior, but then it looks like Sean William Scott's the savior. But I don't know how Sean William Scott's saving anything, and I don't know why The Rock is saving everybody because he wasn't really involved in getting everybody on the Zeppelin. He wasn't even really involved in getting the two Sean William Scotts together or giving that one random guy a bazooka. He just sort of ended up on the blimp for the last 40 minutes of the film. And his main goal was to get everybody off the blimp because he knew something bad was going to happen, and he gets not one person off the blimp. Nobody takes him seriously. But Mandy Moore and Sarah Michelle Gellar seem to realize that the blimp is going to explode too, but it needs to, and they all need to die. I don't know what's happening in the movie, and I worry the prequel books will ruin that.
Yeah, let's just stay away from them.
I don't think understanding more is the answer to further enjoyment in this film. I think take it, go along for the ride, give yourself a couple years to forget most of it again, and then come back to it.
Here's some more things. So Richard Kelly wrote Southland Tales shortly before the September 11th attacks. The original script involves blackmail, a porn star, and 2 cops. After the attacks, Kelly revised the script. He said, the original script was more about making fun of Hollywood, but now it's about, I hope, creating a piece of science fiction that's about a really important problem we're facing, about civil liberties and homeland security and needing to sustain both those things and balance them. He described the film as a tapestry of ideas all related to some of the biggest issues that I think we're facing right now. Alternative fuel, or the increasing obsession with celebrities and how celebrities now intertwine with politics. With the film's premise of a nuclear attack on Texas, Kelly wanted to take a look at how the United States will respond and survive while constructing a great black comedy.
Yes, the comedy in this movie is very quirky and weird, and I like it. As for the issue he's bringing up, yes, Richard Kelly, they are very important. They're not really in your movie. They're like hanging out like in the background, but also not really at all. And they're not terribly explored in interesting or intelligent ways.
Richard Kelly said the film's biggest influences are Kiss Me Deadly, Pulp Fiction, Brazil, and Dr. Strangelove.
I don't see Pulp Fiction in here. I see Kiss Me. I don't know if I see Kiss Me Deadly quite, although I do see literal clips from Kiss Me Deadly on the screen twice. And what was it? Dr. Strangelove? Yeah, I buy that.
And Brazil. I see a little bit of Brazil just because of like dystopia stuff.
Yeah, it's the comedy of Dr. Strangelove and the surrealism of Brazil. That's really what's in here. Mm-hmm.
And Robert says Pilot Abilene, who is Justin Timberlake, quotes biblical scripture from the Book of Revelation and narrating the film, and allusion is made both to Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, in an altered version of T.S. Eliot's The Hollow Men.
You know, and I actually wonder how many people who grew up outside of New England would be familiar with these Robert Frost quotes. Perhaps The Road Not Taken because it's quoted ad nauseum, but in reality, sorry, literati out there, but Robert Frost is not a good poet. He is a fine poet, but he's not great. And the only reason we really know him as well as we do is that John F. Kennedy, who was from Massachusetts, brought in a New Hampshire poet to kind of represent the region when he was being inaugurated. But there's a reason why Robert Frost's poems are being taught in elementary school. It's because they're not that great, and because an 8-year-old can understand them and pick them apart.
They're very simple.
They are nursery rhymes disguised as literature. That's my shots fired on Robert Frost.
Damn. Just to note, most of the cast was like announced in March 2004, but then Dwayne Johnson didn't come onto the project until July 2004. So they didn't even have their lead yet.
Was Dwayne, which is I don't even know if you could call Dwayne the lead. I guess you could, but like it's really an ensemble thing. It
is
really
he like the
is.
star that like the biggest star in the movie though?
No,
at that
Sean
point?
William Scott's got to be bigger. The Rock's been in a bunch of flops.
I know, but like The Rock is such a name in pop culture because of wrestling. I know you've heard of him, but like in 1999 to like 2004, he was the biggest name in wrestling, and like wrestling, like it was at its peak in 99.
I don't know. I would argue Sean William Scott is the
because
bigger
of the
name
American
here.
Pie movies. Because that's like all he had, really.
Well, no, but Joe, in this time period, he was in like a million forgettable movies. He was everywhere.
Are you thinking of Bulletproof Monk? That is his movie.
That's his movie, Joe. That is one of the many forgettable movies I'm thinking of. It was Kevin Hart syndrome, but for Sean William Scott in this era. It was definitely the tail end of his era.
Yes.
But like The Rock, I don't know. Like he's not in wrestling for a couple years now, and like nobody's seen any of his previous movies. And quite frankly, I don't know. I think Sean William Scott takes this role, even though he's like third billed, because he gets to be two people.
Can we agree on something though?
What?
Is Sean William Scott giving the best performance in the movie?
No, I don't know.
No,
I don't
think so.
I don't think so.
I thought so.
I think a lot. I honestly think a lot of the actors are having trouble because they don't know what's happening. They have literal no idea what's going on. And I don't know, like Richard Kelly, I wonder, based on especially the cast of the Donnie Darko, I wonder if Richard Kelly knows how to direct actors, because in Donnie Darko, they're all very talented actors. They either were name actors or isn't Patrick Swayze in that movie? Like,
he is. That's one of his last like movie roles.
Yeah, like he's got a really good cast for a very independent movie. You got Drew Barrymore, you have the Gyllenhaals that weren't huge yet, but were going to be. And I just feel like you could let them kind of do most of the script is, comprehensible enough and simple enough where you could let the actors kind of do their own thing and you just focus on making that script great and getting the visual feel that you want. And he's really good at this visual side. He knows how to use the camera, move the camera. It's how he's getting this kind of Michael Bay flourishes amidst all this David Lynch surrealism. He's doing a lot of interesting things with the sound design and the pacing and the jumping back and forth. The script is clearly monumental. So I just maybe like these actors are all less stellar performers or more limited ranged performers. So you kind of can't leave them to their own devices. You kind of have to help them all along. I think the most talented actor in the whole movie is probably John Larroquette. And then maybe Wallace Shawn. And then after that, it's like just everybody else,
Wow.
And like Sean William Scott and Sarah Michelle Gellar are certainly talented actors, but their range is so limited and they're playing very against their normal type.
Yes, they are.
And everybody else, they're improv people. They can do that well. And that's why I'm so shocked that Sherry Oteri was able to kind of do this revolutionary role and get away with it. I guess. Yeah,
you think this is probably that she's the best performance in the movie then, right? For you?
For me, it's the most surprising performance.
Okay.
But I would put her up there. And Janine Garofalo is actually the most typecast in the whole movie, playing exactly the role you would think she would play. And of course she can do that well because that's sort of where her range is. So she's the only one that kind of fits in her normal place. And so she gives a great performance because of it. The other two guys are sort of doing it by their pure talent. And everybody else is just hoping that they get enough of what's going on to make it work.
I want to read some of the critical response for this and bring back an excerpt we did last week with Roger Ebert. So many critics responded unfavorably to the film's long running time and sprawling nature. Roger Ebert described the Cannes screening as the most disastrous since, the Brown Bunny.
Oh, yes, the infamous Brown Bunny. He would never shut up about that movie. That became his new benchmark after that released.
Have you seen that movie?
I have not seen the movie.
I actually watched that movie like so long ago. It is so awful. There's no way to even think of it as art. Like, I swear to God, 80 minutes of that movie is just literally what's that guy's Vincent Gallo?
Yeah.
He's just in a truck driving, like a van or something. He's driving, and you're just the camera's on his face driving, and he doesn't even have any emotions while he's driving. You're just watching his eyes like watch the road.
Okay.
Nothing is happening. Nothing is going on. There's no context or anything. It's just, is that art?
I don't know. I haven't seen it, but probably.
Or is that just someone who put a camera on his face, which is probably himself if he directed the movie?
Yeah, there's a problem.
And then,
there's a problem going on in art, and when most people are trying to create art and be artists, I don't think they know what art is, but I don't think we do a good job of teaching people that. I don't think we do a good job of talking about art and dissecting art and trying to understand art from a very emotional place. I think we come at it way too intellectually.
I don't know if I can.
That's okay, because you were never taught how to sort of communicate with art. I think that's a big problem that we have. And I think when they teach you in school, like, oh, hey, here's Lord of the Flies. The conch shell means society. Oh, hey, here's Ethan Frome. The color red is used for blah, blah, blah. The cat means that. Like, that's not what those authors intended. It wasn't really, it's not really the best way to give those books universality and to help an audience engage with the books. It is sort of very unfortunate that we're teaching us at a young age to do that, because we're not teaching anyone how to read cinema. And so when you go do that and you're trying to be a film critic, you only attack it from a literary perspective, which is already falsified. So not only are you in a medium that isn't literary, so you shouldn't be applying those tools to it, you're not even learning how to read literature right. All right, Joe. Yes, the movie's running time is very long, going back to your quote.
Yeah.
But and I was very annoyed as I was beginning the movie, like, oh, I've got 2 hours and 40 minutes of this movie to
24
sit through.
minutes. Or 24.
Oh, not me, Joe. I got this long, fancy long version on Amazon Prime streaming.
What?
Movie wouldn't end. Movie was so long.
You have another cut of this movie?
I think so. I thought that was the cut I had. What do you have?
Do you have the con cut?
Maybe. I don't know. All I know was my movie was 2 hours and 40 minutes long, and I was like, there have been movies I think that I would have seen that I chose not to see because they were this long. There, so many movies I was like on the fence, like, do I want to see this Spider-Man movie? And I say 2 hours and 35 minutes. I don't like Spider-Man that much, and I just didn't go.
No.
But like this movie, I didn't want it to end. I'm just give me more. Give me a 3-hour rock movie. I'm game. I want to be in this fugue state for a really long time. This is my getting high is Southland Tales.
That makes me so happy.
What are other critics saying before we start to wrap up?
Jason Solomons from The Observer in the UK said that Southland Tales was so bad it made him wonder if Kelly had ever met a human being, and that 10 minutes of the sprawling, plotless, post-apocalyptic Farrago, I guess that's the word, gave him the sinking feeling that this may be one of the worst films ever presented in Cannes competition. I don't know about that, but
I mean, listen, it certainly does not belong in that crop. It is not what the movie is trying to do. And quite frankly, I don't think Donnie Darko is sort of this big artistic statement. I think the problem that Donnie Darko has had in its subsequent years is the over-analysis that came out after both the original cut and the director's cut. I don't think it's meant to be probed that much. It's just a very unique story told in a very unique way. And for 2001, 2002... that was great. That was refreshing. The indie scene had died and become commercial. That big boom in the 90s had failed. The film festivals had become commercialized. Studios were buying up all the independent distributors, your Miramax, your Sony Picture Classics, and that the indie market had become homogenized. And this wacky thing comes out with time travel, but kind of not really, but maybe, and dude in a bunny, and apocalypse is happening, and like this
orbs coming out of the chest.
This very sad kind of family drama and struggle that was the background of it all. It sort of was a very smart kind of script, But it wasn't meant to be this deep, probing analysis of the world, so you shouldn't have expected that from Southland Tales. You shouldn't have put it in cons. Go on, Joe.
In a 2013 interview, Richard Kelly said he considered this work as the thing that I'm most proud of, and I feel like it's some sort of the misunderstood child or the banished child.
Yeah, I don't know. Donnie Darko, probably a better movie, but just the odds of having this movie with all these terrible parts to it and having it work, maybe you should be the most proud of it. It's probably the luckiest he's ever gotten. Like, I don't know how it's like winning the lottery, getting this movie to work the way it does. It's so unfortunate. People are expecting something else or want something more traditional or aren't willing to surrender themselves to the flow of the film, because it can be a treat if you do. All right, what other quote you have for us, Joe?
No, I just want to say, I don't know if you've seen both of them, but I've only seen the director's cut of Donnie Darko. I've never seen like the regular theatrical version.
I saw, the original one was shown to me at a friend's house. It was like Mike Coyne. Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Mike Coyne showed me this when we had a bunch of friends over. He's like, hey, let's watch this movie. And I saw that, and that was the regular version. And then the next day I went to buy the DVD at, I think it was probably Strawberries at the time. Of the many names it's had over its years before it completely left shop. I went to Strawberries. I bought that DVD. It was one of the first DVDs I ever owned. I think I had very recently got myself a DVD player.
Yeah.
It might have been the first movie I owned on DVD. I bought a few shows when they were starting to put out shows on DVDs. It was right at the beginning of that. It was like 2006, 2007 maybe. So I bought this Blu-ray. It was a DVD. It wasn't Blu-ray yet. The DVD of Donnie Darko, and it happened to be the director's cut. And I was like, I don't remember a lot of these parts happening in the movie. But this was the first time I learned kind of what a director's cut was. And it had his commentary on there, which I think was really great in helping me start my own kind of filmmaking career and listening to
with Kevin Smith,
and sort of like just listening to the tales of kind of the struggles of independent production and learning sort of how quickly they had to shoot this 2.5 hour film and how they were able to get Drew Barrymore and Patrick Swayze and how they discovered Jake Gyllenhaal and Maggie before they started to explode, because it took them the movie a while to get finished and edited and then distributed. So. Yeah,
and then I believe it's the little girl, like that's the youngest sibling.
Yeah,
went on to be the girl in the ring.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
I'm so happy. This was one of my favorite conversations I've ever had with you.
I was so excited to go to this movie, but I had to play it really straight face all week with you and be like, "Yep, I saw the movie. Don't worry, we'll have a good conversation." Because I wanted you to think I was going to hate this movie. And quite frankly,
I was so afraid.
And quite frankly, looking back on the experience, I don't know how I didn't hate this movie, but I loved just about every minute of it. And I bet if I watched it again, I would love every minute of it now that I knew what I was expecting, because it was a rocky first couple minutes. Some of my earlier notes are kind of all the things I was nitpicking. And then I just sort of lost myself to it.
I'm going to say that if you wait because I mean, the last time I watched it was like a couple years ago. But if you wait I don't know, 6 months to a year, it'll be a completely different experience.
Exactly.
Like, you'll just get something new out of it.
I have to give myself a lot of time between my viewings of it. But even during this week, I was telling a lot of people hey, go watch this movie now. Don't look up anything about it. Just find it and watch it. And in some of the podcast regulars, I was even warning what I did at the beginning of the podcast. Hey, if you want to listen to this episode on time, like you usually do, make sure you watch the movie this weekend. Go in completely blind. It's the only way to experience the movie, and I highly recommend it to anybody. I'm going to be spreading the soul gospel. Memory gospel?
Yeah, the memory gospel.
I am full on spreading the memory gospel. That is what I am now going to do as part of the rest of my life.
I love you.
All right, Joe. So just let's go to our last looks real quick, then we'll sign off. Why did The Rock do this movie? I don't know if I care.
I don't. We barely talked about him in this movie.
What do I care? Fuck it. Doesn't matter. He's just a small cog in the whole machine.
Yeah, I was just. Oh my god, you took the words right out of my mouth. I'm glad he's in it, because I'm glad we could watch this.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a different kind of presence of he brought something to this movie that I don't know. He's big. He's a giant man.
No, but it's also nice because it's going to be clear. I have to imagine it's the least Rock-like of his movies.
Oh, yes. Well, there's one a lot further down the line.
Okay.
I'm not going to give it away because I don't even think you know he's in this movie or you've even heard of this movie.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that there's one down the line that I'm very excited to rewatch. I haven't seen it in a few years now, but it's not on par with this. This movie is just like a unicorn.
Yeah.
But it's another good one, I think.
Was he the first choice for this role? Was it written with him in mind, or was he the first choice? Is Richard Kelly a secret wrestling fan?
I don't think so. I mean, I saw he just looks like a dude. He doesn't look like a director. Okay. He doesn't look like your typical. He didn't have like the hat on. He didn't have a suit on. He just in like a t-shirt, jeans. He had some tattoos.
Yeah.
It looks like, and he had the gelled up hair or whatever. And I'm like, this guy just looks like he's in a moment. He was pulled from a moment. They had a really troubled shoot on this too. Like they were shooting in Venice in September, and it was just raining constantly. That's why that shot at the beginning with the army soldier is like on like a wet sidewalk.
Okay. It just seems like I'm wondering if why Rock, you probably don't understand the script just like everybody else. Why did you want to take this role? But then I'm thinking well, is it just simply that you were still getting started off and you were just going to take whatever role, and this one was technically top billed, so why not? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe it's just like, oh, this guy did Donnie Darko. Here's some indie cred for you.
So is this The Rock trying to move into the indie crowd? Does he kind of keep that trend up in the next few movies?
The next movie we're doing, this movie, I was actually going to ask if you wanted to put it off till next week, because technically this movie got, it came out in 2006, but it didn't get released in the US until 2007. So his next movie that came out in 2006 was Gridiron Gang, which is a football drama. We'll be doing that next week. It's on Netflix. So
okay, that sounds good.
Which is good. It's almost as long. So
Jesus.
Just brace yourselves. I have never seen that one either. This is there's a little period where I haven't seen any Rock movies. I haven't seen The Game Plan, which is coming up soon, which is another football drama, I guess comedy with the little girl, like a Disney movie. But yeah, he's going in like a different direction. He's getting away from action movies. He's kind of taking more of a authoritative, like dramatic role.
Okay, well, a good way to kind of increase your longevity in Hollywood. Yeah. It makes sense, especially if he left wrestling to protect his body. You'd probably want to stay away from action films for the same reason.
Yeah, for a few years.
Yep, makes a lot of sense there. Yes, eventually, I'm sure when he realized that his drama route didn't work as well as he'd hoped, and they were paying him the big bucks for some action stuff, there was a very strong financial impetus to return. I, for one, have never been happier to give The Rock my money than I was this week. Ironically, it was the least amount of money I had to give to stream some of these movies we've done, other than the ones that were free. The one that was free.
The one was free.
One was free so far. The other ones were all $3.99. This one, $2.99.
Oh, nice. And it might be that Khan's cut. I got to check that out. That's crazy if you've seen the Khan's cut.
I think I have, because it went on. I was so annoyed that I was going to have to spend 3 hours watching this movie, and then I wish I could have spent more time watching this movie. So great. Well, glad I was able to make your day, Joe. I hope, audience, that this movie made your day as well. I would like to thank Lev Van Rensselaer for helping us out and putting the editing together on this podcast. It's going to be a fun one to put out. And of course, we'd like to thank Joe for joining us, as he does every week. And we'd like to thank you, audience, for listening. And of course, let us thank our sponsor, Noodle Door Dash. That's right. Now Noodle Door has become an app. You can get Noodle Doors delivered straight to your door. That's Noodle with a U. All right, audience, thank you all for listening. Joe, say goodnight.
Good night.
It's a very, very mad world. Mad world. Children waiting for the day they feel good. Happy birthday, happy birthday.
simultaneously as like theatrical release and VOD. That's what Bill and Ted did. Bill and Ted did great.
I mean, what's great, Joe?
$3 million.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Joe, you know, when your business model is, let's make a product that's $250 million so that we can make $1 billion in a very fragile distribution ecosystem that we have set up. Once a global pandemic happens, maybe they'll start to see the fragility of such a model.
Yeah, I agree. But like little movies, put the little tiny movies out. Just put something like there's a little romantic comedy coming out that came out called The Broken Hearts Gallery, and I had zero interest in this movie, and tonight I think Tanya and I are going on a date to go see it. I'm not sure. There is a movie on HBO Max that we're thinking about watching too. That's a home movie. We don't have to spend any money. I already have HBO Max.
Yep.
And I don't know. So I got options at least this weekend. That's nice. But like Netflix will take care of me this award season. They've got like 6 or 7 big awards contenders that were like supposed to come out anyways, and I'm like, all right, okay, thank you Netflix, I appreciate it. We haven't had a good standing because most of your movies have been hot garbage, but once in a while you get a nice good old Netflix flick.
Yeah, Netflix has another similarly fragile business model, which is shotgun. Just make everything, and maybe something will be good.
Something will stick. Something will stick to the cultural atmosphere or whatever. It's just
you never know which which weird movie will turn into a critical darling, and which crappy movie will become the current pop culture flavor for the next few months. So you might as well just make it all.
Well,
it's kind of Netflix is really the only company that said like, hey, we're all really just guessing anyway, so let's just guess a whole bunch.
Have you watched that Charlie Kaufman movie yet?
I have not yet.
Are you going to?
Yes, I will watch it. Yes, I will.
I need to rewatch it too.
Very busy.
It's very dense
to watch a bunch of other films during the week. So hopefully, maybe tomorrow, maybe Sunday. Tomorrow is Sunday. Maybe Monday I will get to it.
Well, I hope you enjoy it as much as I did, or at least get something out of it that you weren't expecting.
Charlie Kaufman's usually an okay run through.
Yeah. Have you seen Synecdoche?
No, weren't we supposed to go see it in the theater, but then we didn't?
Last year?
I don't know which year.
Before you left? Did you leave when did you left last August, right?
Yes, it was just about 13 months ago.
Yeah, you know what's crazy?
What?
It feels like you've been gone for 10 years. I'm not going to lie.
You wouldn't have, if I had stayed, you wouldn't have been able to see me for most of that time anyway.
I know.
Yeah. But I came back at Christmas. I saw your baby.
Yeah, you did.
All right, we hung out for a little bit. Gave you a little hat for your baby.
It looks like there's no chance you'll be coming back this year, right?
I would be very surprised if I felt confident enough to take a plane at Christmas time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
So it could
be. So this will be the longest time I haven't seen you.
It will. Well, you see me every week, Joe.
I see the purple P box.
Purple P's my new moniker. Purple P Productions.
Purple P Productions.
That's what we'll be doing. This seems to be working. You ready to kind of go on in on this?
Yeah, we'll jump in.
Okay.